fire when you have a spouse that is a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home parent? Is this even possible to achieve financial independence and retire early as a couple when you're only really working on one income? Today, I have 13 tips or 13 considerations of how you can achieve fire with a stay-at-home parent, a mom, dad, whatever, stay-at-home parent. And then I'm going to be sharing our experience because this is what we're doing. I'll share our experiences and thoughts throughout. So, hi, I'm Rebecca, and my husband is Lib, and he's here from time to time. And we are 5 years into our fire journey. We have about 10 years to go. We plan to retire in our early 50s and go ahead and sell everything that we have when our son heads off to college and slow travel the world. And we're excited to share with you the good, the bad, the ugly here on our channel as we progress through this fire journey. So thanks for joining us. So for simplification, let's just go ahead and take like my unique example, our unique example. I am a stay-at-home mom. My husband works. So this could obviously go for a stay-at-home dad. This could go for somebody maybe that doesn't have kids, but one parent, or one part of the couple is at home and one works. Like whatever your unique situation is, apply it to you. But so that I can keep my thoughts together, we're going to say stay-at-home mom because that's what I am. So again, I've got 13 tips for you to kind of think through how this actually could be possible if this is a situation that you find yourself in. So for us, the first thing that we really needed to do is be strategic about all of the planning that goes into this. Because really the planning and the preparation makes it achievable. One of the things that I always say to my son is if you're prepared, you don't have to be scared. And I use this myself. Like if you can really think through every possibility and you can make a plan and execute on that plan and attack it, you should be able to achieve the outcome that you're looking for. And I think this really applies when you are wanting to not only achieve fire as a couple, even if both of you are working, you need to have a plan and you need to execute on that plan. But even more specifically, if one of you is at home and not necessarily bringing in any salary or a full salary, and you're living on one income, now you even have the cards stacked more against you, and so you really need a plan. So the first thing is you need to have a plan, and some of those things that are part of the plan are what I'm going to be talking about next. The next thing is good communication. I think we all know that there are lots of couples out there that don't communicate well. And a lot of times the thing they don't communicate well about is money, and that can lead to lots of problems. And so I think it's really helpful if you have a good system for communicating about your finances. And for my husband and I, we have the together and then the separate finances. So I have my own finances, he has his own finances, and then we have the joint finances. And then one of us, me, is in charge of handling those joint finances. And so I've taken that role. It's kind of always been that way for us as a couple, even before parenthood, even before I became a stay-at-home mom. So he, by all intents and purposes, brings in the majority of the income through his job, which covers our living expenses. But I actually am the one that is paying the bills, making sure, checking the budget, knowing what's going on with the money, where is it going, and kind of keeping us on the path. And then it's my job to communicate that with him. And then we also have separate spending that I have some of my own money that's not tied up in our joint money where I can spend as I like, and I manage that. And he also has his own separate pot of money that he manages as well. But none of those are, like my personal spending isn't putting us into debt. His personal spending isn't putting us into debt. We kind of have each of those pots reined in. And so I think just communicating about all of this and knowing who's going to handle what, who is reporting to whose responsibility is what, this is all crucial if you're going to do this. The next thing I would think is that everybody needs to be on board. I remember when I found out about the financial independence retire early movement, and I was going down the online rabbit hole of all of the different videos that I was watching and blogs that I was looking at, I kind of had, my computer's talking to me, I had, this whole world exposed to me, and my brain was going crazy, and I'm like, this is great, we're gonna do this, this is awesome. And then I remembered, like, my husband has no idea about this, and how am I going to present this to him? The idea that we could save up enough money in advance and retire earlier than we're supposed to. How am I going to pitch this to him? And so that was a whole thing. And to be honest with you, I don't even really remember how we had the conversation or how I brought it up or any of that. I wish I remembered all of it, but I don't. So obviously I pitched it to him, he got on board, and now here we are 5 years into the journey, really seeing that this is very possible and will likely happen within the next 10 years or sooner. And so, we're on board, it's all going. But if you have one person that wants this and the other spouse doesn't know about it or isn't on board with it, you're never going to make it happen. And so I think those 3 things need to happen before you can get into some of these other more nitty-gritty kinds of recommendations. So the next part I think is pretty obvious, but it should still be said just to make a comprehensive list, that budgeting and living below your means is kind of crucial, right? Like if you are trying to save for retirement at 65 normal age with both of you working, you really need to live below your means. You can't be overspending in order to just achieve that regular goal. Now we're saying we want to FIRE, which is retire even earlier than normal, and both people aren't working. We're doing it on one person's salary. So this is like a double whammy of being super extra and, super aggressive in what you want to achieve. And so if you don't have a budget, you really should. And it doesn't mean you have to do the budgeting exercise for forever, but I do think it's important to understand where the money is going. Not that you need to rein in the money, because perhaps you're already doing a very good job at living below your means. I could tell you for a long time, we didn't have a budget. We were on our way to saving for FIRE, and we didn't have a budget. I did not have anything written down. I didn't know where the money was going. I just knew that we had enough to pay for everything, not be in debt, and we could still shovel money into the stock market. So for a long time, that really was just perfectly fine. And then once we got to be, I would say, a little more dialed in, a little more serious, like it wasn't just some idea, like we started to see the investments kind of rack up, and we're like, okay, like we're starting to get a decent pool of money here. This is looking like it's going to happen. We really should start to get serious about, is this going to work out? Like, are we really going to make this happen? And I think you need to get serious about your expenses and budget now so that you'll know what your budget and expenses are going to be in retirement. You have to base it in something. Obviously, anything could change, and life is going to change as you go through your different seasons of life. But our budget now is going to change from our budget in retirement, but there's going to be a lot of things that we're accustomed to that's going to carry through. So we have actually started budgeting a little bit more, looking at where the money's going, saying, now that we see where the money's going, we're not happy with where the money's going. We don't like that we spend X amount of dollars on this or that. And so we're going to consciously rein that in, which will allow us more money to invest. So we kind of imposed self-limits to create this budget. During the process of it, instead of saying we don't have the money, we can't spend it, it wasn't a place of scarcity or we can't or whatever. It was more like, we don't like that we're spending so much money over here. We'd rather see it go towards our goal of investing and put the money to better use for us. So I think it was a really good exercise for us, personally. And so budgeting, it's got all these bad connotations, but it's actually really just figuring out, where is your money going? It's not necessarily saying you can't spend your money in certain ways. Now, the other part of that in this recommendation is to live below your means of that one salary. And so again, I would consider us high earners. My husband is in real estate. He does make a very good salary. And so he is able to cover all of our delivery guy, cover all of our bills, vacations, all the house stuff, everything that we need. And then, my salary, which we'll get to in a minute, I have a small online business. I pay for some of the extras. He could very well pay for all of these extras. I just do it as a way to contribute. He pays for our vacations, as I said. So we're really living below our means because our means are higher within one salary. And so we are able to invest all of this money towards our FIRE number. If that's not your situation, that doesn't mean that you can't make this happen. It just means you might need to fine tune some things a little bit more than we did. We can be a little bit more loose because there's kind of lots of money flowing around here. But I could easily see, because it wasn't always like this. This is recent for us. It was not always like this. We used to scrimp and save every little penny when we were an early couple before our son came along and before we were homeowners. We really didn't have a lot of money. And so we budgeted and really scrimped and saved and kind of made it work. So I know what that's like, and I know that it is possible. So you just have to kind of identify how you're going to make your budget work and how you're going to live below the means that you have with one salary. It doesn't mean spend the whole entire salary. If you're going to put money away for FIRE and one person is going to not work, you need to be finding your savings rate within that one salary. Okay, I think I belabored that too much. The next part, which is probably what people are very interested in knowing about, are the side hustles, the remote work, the freelance work. This is really going to be necessary. So, at least in my opinion, if you can make it work without it, good for you. We probably wouldn't have. So, in our situation, when Gio was very little, I found out about an app that allowed you to sell your pre-owned baby clothing. And so, long story short, I can always tell this story another day if you're interested in really how I got into it. I found out about reselling clothing online, and I started small and slowly over time built it up into a 6-figure business. And so I work from home with my own business. I sell women's clothing online. I also teach other people how to sell women's clothing online as well. So I have a YouTube channel specifically geared toward that where I teach people how to do it. And then I also have some other side hustles as well, which I'll get to. So when our son was a baby, I slowly kind of took on a side hustle. And then we said, well, this side hustle is great. It makes a little bit of money. It was mostly just for my spending money. At that point, I didn't know about the FIRE movement, so we didn't have any particular purpose for this money. And so it was just spending money for me. And so then I said, well, if I can turn this business into a salary that replaces my old income, the income I made before I quit my job to stay at home with our son, if I could rival that, then there's no need for me ever to really go back to work. Because we had kind of thought, like, once our son was in kindergarten and at school age, maybe I would go back to work. And I said, well, I'm kind of doing this business. If this business could bring in the amount of money that I was making, plus I have all this flexibility because it's my own business and I can call the shots, then that's great. And let's do that. And that's what happened. So I've had this business now as long as my son's been around, almost 10 years, and it's just grown and grown. It's changed a bit over time, as online businesses may, because I am kind of dependent on the platforms that I sell on, but I've made a consistent salary. I have made this small business provide a regular salary for myself while I still get to be home, still get to help on the PTA, still get to help my son with his homework, take him to baseball, do all the mom things, take him to birthday parties. I have complete flexibility. We can go on vacation when we want and all of that. And I'm still bringing in a salary. And so that is where the magic is, because that salary now became the torpedo to our investing. It is what really made it happen. Not because my husband wasn't saving. He was saving in his 401k. He's putting in the right amount into his IRA. He's saving in a brokerage account extra money, and that's all well and good. But now we've doubled it, basically, because now almost all of my salary, aside from paying for gas and all the extras, is literally funneled to only investing. That is its only job. It's not going towards a bill. It's not going towards a vacation. Any money that I make, that I pay myself a salary, goes directly into my brokerage account, into my growth stock, SWTSX, and into my dividend paying stock, SCHD, and that is its sole purpose. And it has really given me a lot of motivation in my business to funnel that money there because I can see the power. So for someone who is, let's say, a stay-at-home mom who isn't doing any side hustles, what can you do? Can you sell things on Facebook Marketplace? Can you go to a thrift store, pick out a mirror, clean it up a little bit, and sell it on Facebook Marketplace? Can you tutor on the side? Can you start a blog? Can you make cookies and sell them on the corner? Like whatever you can do. Can you babysit? Can you start a little in-home daycare? I mean, there's a million, and we'll probably do videos on side hustles and things like that, because that's probably like a secret passion of mine. I love all of that stuff. So there's lots of things that you can do. One of the other things that I do, which is great for stay-at-home moms, if you happen to fancy yourself as like relatively creative, is I design shirts for Amazon, and it's called Amazon. Well, it used to be called Merch by Amazon. Now I think it's called Amazon On Demand or something. And basically you create a design, you upload it to Amazon, and if someone purchases a shirt with your design, Amazon will print it and ship it out. So I have no shirts here. I have no screen printing equipment. I don't do anything with that. I just create the design, upload it, and if somebody orders it, I will get a royalty payment. And so that has also been a fantastic side hustle to do from home as well. So again, this isn't completely about side hustles, but let me know in the comments below if you want to know more, because I can rattle on and on a million side hustles that are possible out there for you. I think that the main point here is that you need some kind of way to, while still being a stay-at-home parent, because that is your main purpose, to also contribute financially. That will kind of snowball your investing. So whether it's, $100 a week, whether it's $500 a month, whether it's $1,000 a month, or a full salary like I bring in now, I bring in a full-time salary from my business, whatever part you are on that spectrum, all of that can be geared and snowballed towards your investment accounts. And so that really is how this all happens. Now, I do have some other points that I think are important, but this is probably the biggest one. So the next part is that you really get whole family buy-in, and this becomes your lifestyle. So in our family, my husband and I, we know that we're working towards this goal. So it's kind of already built in. But with our son, he also knows that we're working towards this goal. He also is becoming a financially literate child. He's had chores, he makes an allowance, he has his own little side hustles. And again, he's financially literate. He has a savings account, he has a custodial account. I'm actually going to talk about those in future videos. So subscribe if you want to know more about kids and financial literacy. But this is now a whole family endeavor. Our son sees the example that we're setting. We're all on board with it. We kind of know that we don't spend on certain extras that seem silly or ridiculous. We don't buy a lot of extra stuff because we know that we have this goal of having our time freedom and retiring early. And we've brought our son into the mix on that. So I think having it being a whole family mindset is really important to just everybody being on the same page and putting all of their life force behind it. The next thing is obviously investing. So you can't do this without investing. So not just the working spouse, both of you. So I kind of already mentioned this. The working spouse, you need to have your 401k or your whatever kind of account you may have through your employer or your business or whatever. And then you need to have your IRA, whether it's a Roth or a traditional. I highly recommend that you have a brokerage account so that you can save money, even though it's not tax advantage outside of it, that you can quickly access an early retirement. This is important. And then the spouse that's not working needs to have these accounts as well. So I don't have a 401k because I don't have a company that has that for me. I did actually open the SEP, which is what you can have if you're a small business person, but I never really made much to do with it. So that might be a foolish thing on our part, but I just never really got that going. So I just have my traditional and Roth IRA, and then I have a brokerage account. And honestly, I think we're doing just fine. Perhaps it would have worked out in hindsight if we had utilized the SEP more, but we just never got going with it. So investing must happen. So it's not just great that you have the working spouse and then you have the stay-at-home spouse. Everybody's excited about it. And then the stay-at-home spouse is now making extra money, but all of it is going out for ice cream and getting new clothes for the summer and, new books. Like, new books are great, but you need to invest that money. So investing is obviously a part of it. The next thing is really having a set it and forget it, automatic millionaire kind of set it and forget it, automatic style for your investing. So this allows you to be very consistent. This allows you to dollar cost average into the market, and it allows for you to not come up with excuses of why not to invest your money. So I have automatic things pull out from my checking account where I deposit my salary from my business, and it automatically pulls into my brokerage and my IRA on certain schedules, and it automatically invests into certain things, and everything is automatic and done. My husband has his 401k that automatically gets pulled out of his check, and he has his IRA and he does that. I will say he tends to want to time the market more instead of, dollar cost averaging, but whatever. Overall speaking, it's working. We're putting the money in. Whether you put it in 12 payments, you put it in one payment, it is what it is, whatever. So the point is that you have this kind of setup in a consistent, automatic way where you don't come up with, oh, we really need to get a new water heater, and oh, we need to do this, and we probably should upgrade that. And like, you can come up with a million reasons to spend your money on something else rather than putting it in your investment accounts. So set it and forget it, pretend that money doesn't exist, and have it just automatically go into your investments. The next thing is really having like a minimalist, or if you don't like minimalist, like value-driven mindset. So I can tell you that my husband doesn't buy clothes ever. Like, from when I met him over 20 years ago, he still has some of these same clothes and still wears them, and he just doesn't buy clothes a lot. I mean, the jeans he's had for decades. I'm kind of that way too, except I feel like my body has changed a little bit more than his, and so I have needed to replenish some clothing and swap some things out. So, but we buy pre-owned a lot of times. I'll buy pre-owned items for my son, and so we save a lot of money on clothing by either not buying it or making use of what we have or buying it pre-owned. We don't buy fancy cars. We don't spend on a lot of the latest gadgets. We use the things that we have until they basically die. And it's not coming from a cheap, frugal place of like, we can't type of mentality. It really comes from like, why? Why do I need to go and buy the new blender when the blender I have works perfectly fine? Why do I need this kind of car? I mean, our area probably is like the Tesla capital of the world. There's Teslas everywhere. I find no desire to go and buy such Tesla. I am perfectly fine with the little Hyundai that I have, and it's great. So like, I think it's just your mindset on stuff. Like, we will splurge on a nice dinner. We will splurge on vacations. Those are where we find the most joy and where we will spend money. And we explain this to our son often. Like, some people choose to spend their money on going out to dinner. Some people choose to spend their money on things. Some people like nice cars. Some people like nice clothes. Everybody spends their money somewhere. What are the choices that you're making with your money? And so for us, we've just found that I wouldn't say we're minimalists. I feel like I'm a minimalist light, minimalist wannabe. um, we just really use what we have, and we don't feel the need to buy a lot of extra or keep up with the Joneses or any of that kind of thing. It's not like we're depriving ourselves. My kid has tons of toys. He has his electronic gadgets that he needs. We have a nice TV, like we have cars. We have what we should have, but we don't go crazy with stuff. We'd rather see our money grow in our investment accounts. And so I think adopting that kind of mindset, maybe without taking it too far, is a really good place to be when you're trying to fire with a stay-at-home parent. Next is keeping your eye on the prize. So focusing on your long-term goal and not your short-term pleasure. This is easier said than done. We make mistakes all the time, but I think that if you have one partner that's a spender, or maybe the kids that you have kind of always rope you into spending, we really need to keep our eye on the prize as a family of what the goal is that we're doing and what are the benefits of that goal. If mom and dad are retired, then we have more time for the kids. Now, for us, the situation is going to be where he's going to kind of be heading off to college at that point. And so it's less about his childhood. But, if you have little kids and you're trying to do this, that may be, how you explain it to them. Mommy and daddy will have more time to be with you if we're all doing this thing. So I think it just depends for everyone, but keeping your eye on the long-term prize and kind of sacrificing sometimes some of those short-term pleasures can kind of get you over the finish line. The next thing is, if you really wanted to be extra, there are some seriously hardcore things you can do to save money, to push more money into your retirement accounts. There's no shortage of ideas within the FIRE community. If you watch enough YouTube videos to know that there are people that are house hacking, that are renting out rooms, that are, doing all of these different things. They're bartering with friends, they're lending tools and selling things and doing all kinds of stuff so that they don't spend money, so they can live super below their means, so that they can go ahead and retire early by investing. So you can do all of that stuff. We keep it pretty run of the mill. We're not doing that. We're not house hacking. We're not renting out our shed. We're not having strangers live with us. We're not, doing those kinds of stuff. But if you want to, you totally could. And I highly encourage you to take a look at some of those things. Next is celebrate milestones. We recently just hit a huge milestone, my husband and I, and we went out to a nice dinner, just the two of us, to really just kind of let it sink in. I think I did a better job of letting it sink in than my husband. He kind of like glossed over it and was like, yeah, whatever, I'll believe it when I'm retired. It's like, no, we just hit a major milestone. We've been working at this for 5 years. Like, the end is in sight. This is actually possible. I think in the beginning when we started, it was like, yeah, great. If we can do it, great. Otherwise, we'll just keep saving our money and we'll retire when we're 60. Like, it can't hurt to save money. And now we're like, holy crap. Like, this is going to happen. It is possible. It is real. And so I think I'm doing a better job than he is in kind of like relishing in it and being confident in it. But I also surround myself a lot more with the FIRE community. I'm watching these videos. I'm in the comments. I'm doing a lot of things within, the interwebs to kind of feed myself with this echo chamber of like, yes, FIRE is possible for real people, and therefore it is possible for us. He's not so much doing that. He's kind of really practical. And like I said, he'll believe it. He'll believe it when he sees it. But I do think that you should celebrate specific milestones that are very big. I mean, if you save $100, I don't think you should go and spend $100 on a nice dinner. Be, mindful of what you're doing. But like I said, we hit a big one. We went to a nice dinner. I think it was needed and really helpful at this point for us. And then the last one is to get connected, which I kind of just mentioned a little bit, is like the people that you know in your real life may know nothing about FIRE. They may think you're crazy for retiring in your 40s or 30s or 50s. They might think, haha, can't wait to see you back at the workforce. Like, you're going to quit your job. Like, people don't like change. They don't like things that are different. They don't like that it's not something that they can see for themselves. They may project, their own misfortunes onto you, like, oh, well, we'll see what happens, with your house. And I don't know what. I mean, we actually have very nice neighbors, and they're very supportive, and people in our circle. And so we don't talk about it a lot with people. I've mentioned it here and there that we're kind of working towards this. I don't think anybody really thinks that it's a really happening reality. So who knows? But when it actually happens, it'll be pretty cool to see their faces. So again, no one in my real life is doing this. But I feel supported and connected because of the online community, because of the fire community, because of the podcasts that I listen to, the YouTube channels that I watch, the Instagram accounts that I follow. All of that connects me in and shows me that it's really possible for all these other people. We're all kind of working toward the same thing. And that is why we wanted to make this channel, so that we could share our unique perspective on things, what we're actually doing as we go through it. What are we considering? What roadblocks are we hitting? What are we researching, and what are our findings? We just wanted to share all of that with you as you potentially go down this road as well. So consider us part of your fire community. We are rooting for you along this journey. Let me know in the comments, where are you at along your journey? Are you just finding out about this? Are you already well on your way? Are you retired already? Do you have a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad? Tell me all about your situation. I love hearing from you guys. I read and respond to all the comments, and I wish you nothing but the best on your fire journey. And I hope that these 13 tips towards being fire couple with a stay-at-home parent really gave you something to think about, and hopefully will help you along. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!